Good morning, or should I say, can't hear you, Mark. We have no volume. Mark.
I was muted. I had Jules in my lap, and I was letting you and Waldo talk in the green room, and I didn't realize I was still muted. So good morning. Welcome to another Nudelberg Daily Huddle.
Rookie move.
Excited to be with you guys this morning, and really excited for our guest because anytime I get personally, like this is a selfish thing, anytime I get the opportunity to spend time with somebody from another industry, another field that understands high performance and can translate it for people, I get the most enjoyment out of it. So I'm super excited about it this morning.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's so validating of the strategies that we put together. I got an email, a newsletter from Waldo Waldman. I read it. I was like, this guy is fucking on point, man. This was like almost in my brain. I loved it. And I reached back out. I just said, dude, this is great, whatever. And you know what? The winners reached back out and do conversations. And so we met virtually. We've never been in the same room together. We're committed to changing that in January of 2024. But, the idea that the world is abundant and there's lots of people who put out good content, and the fact that you can share that with them, it's obviously for me a thrill that we get to do that this morning. So super excited. People watch the movies and get an idea of what Top Gun is. This is the dude. This is a dude that lived it and continues to share that, daily habit principle. But before we get there, it's December 1st. We've got a limited amount of days until the end of the year, but today is the official day. Oh, Shay, no, thank you. Today is the official day that you get to hang your Christmas ornaments without people bugging you.
Well, just so everybody knows, our Christmas lights have been up for a week at this point. So we're ahead of the game. We were not the first house in the neighborhood. I think we were the third house in the neighborhood. But I just think as soon as Thanksgiving is over, it's green light to Christmas tree, Christmas music, peppermint mocha, whatever the hell it is that you need to get in the mood.
Pumpkin spice, baby. Everything pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin spice is over. Get it out. Get it out.
Peppermint mocha now.
We're into peppermint and gingerbread now. Let's go.
So they surveyed 4,000 U.S. homeowners, and they found that December 1st was the day most people identified to put up their Christmas lights. So, or a Hanukkah bush as it is, Hanukkah lights,
whatever
all
serves
that kind
you.
of stuff. Whatever serves you is right. So on the first of every month, I always like to share my daily affirmation. This is foretelling what the month's going to look like. Entering the new month with excitement and enthusiasm. What a great way to kick it off with Waldo. I'm ready to take on new challenges and opportunities. And this is what I love. I trust in my ability to succeed. And if you cannot trust in your own abilities, you can change that. And that's what this whole idea of doing this show and sharing guests like Waldo is about. How do you get better? You watch other people who do it. So without further ado, you got anything else to add?
No, let's not waste any more time. Let's go. Let's get wake up music. Let's get walk up music, and let's get Waldo on the show so we can get to the conversation.
Let's go. And there you have it. Man, what a great song. What a great lead. Welcome our friend Waldo Waldman.
Great to see you. Happy Friday. Happy 1 December.
Isn't it cool? It's cool.
2024. Here we come.
Yeah, 1 month away. Super excited to be to have you on the show this morning. Can't wait to share your story with everybody. I know that you, like my father, are from Long Island, New York, but would you give everybody the Cliff Notes version of Waldo Waldman?
Yep. First and foremost, I like to call myself a courage monger. There's enough fear mongering in the world today. My flight suit I have on today because I got to shoot some video right after this. Otherwise, I'd probably be in a cool Never Fly Solo T-shirt, which is almost as cool as the Huddler T-shirts I saw you guys always don. Yeah. But I'm a father of a 12-year-old. Will be 13 in January. I'm happily married, and I love life. But I'm about, like I said, courage. There's enough fear and there's enough chaos in the world today. We need harbingers of hope, lovers of light, lifters, not draggers in the world. So that's what I am beyond being a New Yorker, a high, intense, compassionate, disciplined, former fighter pilot, combat decorated. Did a lot of crazy things behind the scenes in my days. And then I went to business school after I got out of active duty, was in sales, high-tech sales, and then mergers and acquisition sales, commission only, the only way to play, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
Right? So eating what I killed, earning my wings every day. And then I weaned myself from sales into the speaking world. I wrote a New York Times bestseller called Never Fly Solo. I'm a peak performance coach. And I also do a lot of national sales meetings and conferences for a lot of great companies. So that's the Cliff Notes.
So I'll start off the question barrage, if you will. How does somebody who is fighting claustrophobia get into airplane at all, get in the cockpit at all? How does that happen?
So for those that don't know, I not only was massively afraid of heights before joining the Air Force. 3 years into my Air Force career, I almost died in a scuba diving accident, had PTSD, not from combat, but from this anxiety-provoking experience. I had my first panic attack. I didn't know what one was up until that moment. 35 feet under the water, my mask separated, inhaled a bunch of water. It was just a really, really crazy experience. And so a few days later, back in the cockpit, I'm flying a training mission from Enid, Oklahoma, down to Shreveport, Louisiana, and then up to New York to see my family. And terrible weather, thunderstorms, lightning, dodging, all that. And long story short, I had this panic attack and realized I had claustrophobia. Probably not a good thing for a pilot to have, right? And so for the next 8 years of my 11-year active duty flying career, I had to deal with this anxiety and phobia and fear that tried to keep me in the dungeon of doubt, paralyzed to take action. And every day, every mission, I had to break through that fear and get into the cockpit and do what I love more than anything else, which is to fly. And so that's part of my journey of overcoming fear and challenge. And in today's day and age where mental health is so prevalent, where we are, hamstringed by fear. Those who succeed, those who hit targets are the ones who break their barriers and face their fears. And whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a panic attack or claustrophobia. It could be a fear of rejection on a cold call. It could be fear of messing up, fear of getting married. That's why I delayed as long as I could to dodge the marriage missile. So that's a big.
I'm really glad that you made that parallel, because I wasn't going to attempt to compare like sending video through email to getting into a cockpit.
Exactly, yeah.
But that is a major fear that people that we work with have to get over, is the fear of themselves being seen by somebody else. And it's a big barrier for people to get over. Can you share some of the advice from that experience? Like, did you just white knuckle it and get in every day? Did you have to give yourself daily affirmations? Did you get some help from a mental coach? How did you get through it?
Yeah. And we could probably do this for a couple hours, but I'll give you the abbreviated version. First and foremost, and I like to relate it back to sales and business. We're all performers, but even sales and business relate to how we relate to our partners and spouses and kids and the disciplines that we have in the gym and the affirmations that Steve mentioned before. I like to read my daily devotional is 365 Science of the Mind, Ernest Holmes, Christian base. I'm a Jew. My wife's Christian. I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to faith. I love God. But you gotta, and my dog ate this half because he was into it as well.
That's right, man. He was consuming it the way he knows how.
The content.
That's
But I'll tell you, nothing better than a 130-pound Great Dane giving you kisses in the morning to get you excited and fired up about life. So first and foremost, I did white knuckle it initially. But there are processes. I'm going to be writing a book about this here shortly, and maybe you guys can help because I love relating it once again to business. So first and foremost, you've got to be prepared. Most people are afraid because at the end of the day, they didn't put in the work. They didn't do the things necessary to prepare for the mission, the 30,000-foot, 6-hour night combat mission in Iraq, or the StreamYard video on LinkedIn, or the cold call, or the presentation, or the conversation with the child when you need to discipline them for messing up. So part of the regimen of me was that preparation, the mindset, the sleep, the fitness, the health. You've got to subjugate your fear to I call it subjugating the noise of fear to the music of life and love. And so part of your preparation regimen is the focus, is the prayer, is like I said, the sleep, the health and fitness, the knowing who to go to for help. Like before, when I'd have these challenges, I'd call my twin brother Dave, and I'll get into this a little bit later. But so preparation is key. If you're not confident about what you're going to do in case the contingency comes, the anxiety, the sales objection, the microphone that goes out, whatever, then you're not going to be confident. So do the preparation piece. So I read a lot. And I had my daily rituals before I jumped into the cockpit. So that's one piece that I think it can relate to everyone, to subjugate the fear to the confidence that's a byproduct of preparation. Now, that's one segment. The other thing is you have to envision the victory. If you're on a call or on a mission or on anything, you've got to have a clear view of that target. What's it look like? What's it going to feel like when you win? Right? Right? And so when you let that marinate your mindset and fill yourself with that energy, you got to, when I used to fly, I'm like, a lot of times I come back from these missions with my wings in my chest, off my chest and in my hand, and saying, why am I doing this? And by the way, you have to earn these wings every day. That's why they're on Velcro. So I'd be like, what the heck am I doing? Because anybody who's watching this, who's ever experienced a panic attack or claustrophobia, you know how mentally taxing it is and how intense it is. And so, but I would always say one more day, one more mission, just give it one more shot. And it eventually got easier and easier. You become numb to that fear because you're putting yourself in front of it and getting used to that panic. You're getting used to the fear of and anxiety of it. So that's what resilience is, by the way. It's putting yourself into precarious situations and it's not as foreign to you. So you breathe through it. You prepare, you envision what it's going to feel like. Yes, I overcame the biggest barrier to my success, myself. How did that feel? So taxiing in after that mission and going off the runway saying, I did it. I didn't just dodge the missiles and support my team or lead men and women into combat. I overcame this panic attack and I kicked its ass. So we need to really savor that. And if you don't have an idea of what victory looks like, you need to really sit down and practice. And it takes a lot of losses before you can feel that victory. So envision it, have a clear view of that win. The other component, I'll try and be brief as I can, is also knowing what it is that you're fighting for. I love that Jules was on the show this morning. That's his 18-month-old little guy. And that's it. I'm like, and that's what it's all about. You got to know what it is that you're fighting for. Know what it is also. Know what it is also, not necessarily what you're fighting for, what you're loving for. And this is where people get a little distracted, I think. We've all heard the saying, what keeps you up at night, right? It's a very, very important sales strategy, because when you find out what keeps you up at night, that's the thing that you need to conquer. However, I don't believe it's what keeps us up at night that counts. It's what gets us out of bed.
Mm.
What keeps you up at night is fear-based.
Mm-hmm.
What keeps you up at night is anxiety-based. It's performance debilitating more often than not.
Yeah.
What gets you out of bed, that pushes you to jump out of bed, just like the song, your theme song is like, got to get out of bed, right? You got to put those feet on the ground and say, what is it that I'm willing to go to battle for? And it's normally based on who and what you love.
Mm.
Your children, your dreams, your spouse, your client, yourself, most importantly, the inner wingman or wingman that stares back at you every day. So you have to find clarity in what that is. And that's hard to do when you're in the carpet, stressed and moving and taking out targets and being on phone calls and running your business every day. And that's why you need visual reminders of what it is that you love. And think about that when you hit the ground, like being in that state of gratitude that you talked about just before, Steve.
So I have a question that's a complete curveball. I really never asked this question before, but it's front and center for me. So you're this amazing high performer who is taking life for all it has to offer. You've created goals for yourself. You went from, a fighter pilot, which is everybody's hero, to, going to school, doing all of these things. What do you do when the circle of friends you hang out with aren't the same?
I'm rebooting. Hold on a second. My camera popped off here, right, guys? There it is.
There we go. There you are. You're back.
So what do you do? Like a lot of the CEOs, a lot of the high performers that I coach have an issue with, they're so far ahead of the people that they hang out with. It's like, what do I do? Do I find new friends? Do I, how do I move through my life because I want more, I do more? And we believe you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. So, somebody like you, how do you deal with that?
So, okay. My dad, who just passed away at 93 a couple months ago, he was a Navy veteran. Yeah, he was just lived a strong, loving life. But he always used to say, be careful who you spend time with on the weekends. That was the best advice you could give. Be careful who you spend time with on the weekends, outside the cockpit, outside your squadron. Who are you spending time with when you're having fun? If you're hanging out with the same buddies from high school, playing poker and drinking beer and doing silly things, you're messed up. So you've got to expand your circle and step out of that comfort zone of relationships and find others who can lift you up, but also who you can lift up. On the ladder of life, I believe you have to have a hand up, finding that next mentor and coach who can take it to the next level. But at the same time, you need to have a hand down, saying it's not just your passion, but also your responsibility to lift up others and be the mentor and coach and harbinger of hope to those folks who may be in the dungeon of doubt, who need you to give them thrust. So assess your circle. So I have a saying, make your friends your mentors and your mentors your friends.
Wow. I mean, that could be the best thing that was answered on this show since we've been doing it, because people have a very difficult time letting go of what was to become who they should be or could be. You've obviously done that. You're a shining example, but not everybody's programmed to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, because it's hard to step outside your circle and be, your friends, you spend some time with each other, but just like us, we've never met, but I believe we truly have a relationship. If you don't think you can't build a relationship on a phone with somebody or through these things, you haven't lived life, or definitely haven't been in sales. I've got great relationships with people who I haven't been blessed and fortunate enough to shake their hand. But when we connect and have these conversations, it's a beautiful thing. And you can learn a lot through a virtual mentor, through a podcast, through a phone call, through using YouTube or looking at all these videos. But get out there. And I think the best way to find other folks is through volunteering, through also saying yes. Here's what I mean by that. I just read something and we all heard, you got to say no. You got to protect your schedule. Say no more often, because if you say yes to everything, you'll be distracted from your goals. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. But I think you need to say yes way more before you've earned the right to say no.
That you got to earn the right to say no. That's
you got to earn the right to say no. You said a lot of yeses.
Hey, give me a nugget.
Pulls up, 3-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good.
So And that means volunteering. It means being quote unquote inconvenienced and being on this podcast with some young gun who's trying to make it. And they ask politely and with tact. They're not picking your brain, but they're building a relationship. And they say, can you please join my podcast? Can you please go to breakfast with me? Can you spend an hour on the phone, show me how to get into the speaker industry? I do a lot of speaker coaching, 99% of the time without payment. Because somebody just simply asked, and they asked with honor and respect, because I know they're going to be paying it forward. So say yes and suck it up and earn the right to say no.
So, Waldo, I got to ask you a question, because you talked about peak performance in the beginning of the show. It's obvious that you understand what that means, and you figured out how to navigate that in every different aspect of your life. How do you balance being a peak performer in your business, being a peak performer as a husband, being a peak performer as a father? Because people will tell you that you can't be everything to everybody, and that there's a sacrifice. So if you want to be the best in business, then maybe your family has to sacrifice. Or if your family is your priority, maybe your business has to sacrifice. So how do you balance peak performance in all those areas?
Yeah, it's hard. And it's the biggest struggle that I have in full transparency, because I've got my son's going to be 13 next month. My wife doesn't work. She worked many years in corporate America, and she runs the household and does so much. So I've got to be very maniacal and disciplined with my time and stay focused on that 5 minutes or a few hours that I'm spending time with my family. Like yesterday, we were on the couch. We were decorating the home. We got to buy some new bar stools for downstairs. And so to me, I could give a crap what color the damn bar stool is, right? I don't. And don't tell my wife all this, because I could give a flying chutzpah what the damn color is of it. But I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't like that color. And I kind of could give a shit once again. But I'm like, so I need to listen. And she appreciates my perspective. And even if it's 1 minute of focused time and perspective, I got to give it to her. And same thing with my son. I find myself a lot of times distracted by work, right? And we'll talk about distractions in a second here as well. And I'm like, crap, I'm not spending enough focus time. And everyone knows that 5 minutes of focus time is better than 1 hour of diffused, distracted time. So my good friend Dan Thurman, and a Hall of Fame speaker like me, and just a great guy and a prolific author, wrote a book, Off Balance on Purpose. And he says, work, life, spirituality, health and fitness, family, all those things, you just have to stay focused. And it's always going to be off balance, but you have to be on purpose when you're doing them. And I'm not doing it justice by summarizing it that way. So you can never really do it, but you've got to be like this couple moments you spent with Jules, hugging him, to creating that bond, that connection before you jumped on this is really critical. So don't worry about being perfect with it. You're going to be off balance, but make sure it's focused time and intentional.
I love the intention behind spending the moments. It's not about the amount of time, but it's about the intention behind it. And if you're able to plan it and do it, then you should be successful. You said you wanted to touch on distractions. Please share. How do you feel about distractions?
It goes back to the fear thing. The biggest thing also that allowed me to stay present when I was having that panic attack, leading folks into combat, by the way. And also I want to preface it with, if my claustrophobia impacted my ability to do my job in a negative way, then it would be my responsibility to quit and get the help I needed and get out of that cockpit, so I wasn't a detriment to the safety of my teammates and my wingmen and the mission. Okay, because the folks hear that and say, well, how the hell did you fly? You were flying a $35 million jet and flying in combat, and you still were claustrophobic and having these panic attacks? What the heck? Well, guess what? I don't know where it's at, but my best award was Flight Leader of the Quarter, Instructor Pilot of the Year. I had all these awards, despite the fact that I was probably more afraid than some of the folks that I was leading in the battle. Because I distracted myself from myself and focused on my team. And when I would go to battle, I'd say, okay, and part of claustrophobia and any anxiety is where your focus is. And we just mentioned it, right? The mind technically can't think of two things at once.
Correct.
And so if you're maniacally focused on the team, who needs you? It's all about who's depending on you, my teammates, the folks who I was flying with, the folks that needed me to lift them up and coach them. When I was focused in on that, suddenly I became present. Suddenly it wasn't about me. the inner wingman. It was about helping those others. And I was like, wow, when I'm thinking about who needs me and who's dependent on me, and I focus maniacally on them, then suddenly fear gets subjugated to love. And that's why I believe love, when you've all heard it, love conquers fear. Because love is about sacrifice. It's truly about taking the focus off of ourselves. And so when you can find a way, and it goes back to, find meaning in your mission, what it is that you're fighting and loving for, then when you're focused on that, that's how you can suddenly become present. And you're like, wow, where did this anxiety go? Because I was focused on helping my customer. I was focused on my son. I was focused on my team. Ultimately, that's
Fantastic.
why people,
I think everybody in the audience wants to know. So Top Gun, the movie, glorified this. When the movie came out 30, 40 years ago, whatever it was, there were more people enlisting to become pilots.
Sure.
How true is all of that jargon and all that stuff? Because even to today, it's one of my favorite movies. Maverick, the same. So how true is it?
So a lot of it is true. I think the second Maverick movie did a better job representing the culture and lifestyle of a fighter pilot. It's sometimes a lonely profession. It's very, very competitive. When you walk into a fighter squadron, by the way, the first things you see on the wall, after you pass the bar, because it's important for us to socialize, right? You see instructor pilot of the year, flight leader of the quarter, flight leader of the year, company grade officer of the month. And so you're seeing all these amazing best of the best. We want to showcase the best. And guess what you're thinking? And I'll ask you two sales guys,
right.
What are you thinking the first time you show up to that?
How do I get on that wall?
How do I get on that wall? Exactly. That's why you're in sales. You don't want to get on that wall. Turn your ass around. You are not meant for this business.
Yeah.
Now, to get on that wall takes an awful lot of relationships and team building. That's why my book, Never Fly Solo, is about trust and collaboration. Can't get there on your own. But if you don't want to get on that wall, goodness gracious.
Why are you here? Why are you here then?
Right. And so, but the best ones are the prepared, the confident, the courageous, the humble, the coaches and mentors, the folks who give their wings away. But at the end of the day, the culture is very, very competitive. It did a great job. Some of the flying scenes, the upside down inverted stuff wasn't realistic, but the low altitude flying fast and popping up in those G's and then rolling in, extremely realistic. I did it 50 times in Korea in doing, I wouldn't say we broke the rules all the time, but we went low and fast, and we were in, you'd see the mountains on both sides of you. There were some guys that even flew under telephone.
So I think this is a great way to end the show. Like that, if you ask yourself the question, are you trying to get on the wall? And the answer is no, then you have to really evaluate what you're doing and why you're doing it and find the place to be.
You got it.
Rich asked the question, how do I find someone who wants to get on the wall? I don't know how much talent assessment you do with the organizations that you worked with. I'm sure you had to do a ton of it as a flight instructor. How do you assess whether or not somebody has a desire to get on the wall? Do you just ask them?
Okay, it's a great question because I recruited for the Air Force Academy, and I was also an instructor pilot for many years, trying to assess the skill set, the mindset, and the heart set of the Top Guns that I was training. A lot of times you got to look back at their past. Talk about your failures. How did you overcome it? Like I tell my son, when he loses in a soccer game, he'll get pissed off and angry. And I'm like, good.
Right.
Good.
Come on, hit the ground, like get pissed off. He doesn't like participation trophies. Either do I. And so, yes, be angry, be pissed, and get it out of your system. But do it for a minute or two. Set your timeline, and then get on to the obligation or responsibility, if you want to be a peak performer, of getting back in the cockpit, getting back in the training, getting back on the phone, getting back in the books, and working. We have a saying in the military: the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in battle. Wow. I want to know what you're sweating. Tell me about your weekends. What's your regimen? Where are you sweating in your life? Outside of sales or business development, tell me the scars of your character. Show me the struggles that you went through and the pains. And normally those type of folks who have those struggles have had this innate desire. Sometimes it's dysfunctional, by the way. then they're like, all right, I gotta find a way to win, because most people, I think, hate losing more than they like to win. And that's me for sure. I expect to win.
What an
Waldo,
amazing,
what a way to kick off the month.
Like, listen, I love doing the show and I love having guests on, and there's always nuggets. This was 30 minutes of absolute gold.
This is a Hall of Famer. This is a Hall of Fame
Thank you
episode.
so much for spending the time. You're so real. You're so genuine. When you're here, dinner is on us. We want anytime I can spend time with you, I'm taking it. So thank you so much. It was such a delight. Any last words for our audience?
No, and thank you. And feelings mutual, 100%. It doesn't it's not the uniform, it's not the background, it's who you are as a human being. That's the thing that makes these relationships special. And I have a kindred connection to both of you guys, and so I look forward to connecting. So I'm on LinkedIn. Connect with me there. I want to give everybody a free download in my New York Times bestseller, Never Fly Solo. There's a QR code. There's a website. Anybody who's listening, go ahead and
we'll make sure that we'll share that link as well. So that we'll share that link in the comments for you.
I don't always give it away, guys. I really don't. But this is $20 on Audible, but it's free to the Huddlers. And then connect with me on LinkedIn and my website, yourwingman.com. And I'd love to stay connected.
Waldo, you're the best. Thank you so much. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. We will see you guys on Monday. Let's get down to business.
God bless you guys. Take care.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down.